The wind coming off Lake Michigan carried a bitter chill that cut through Diane Jenkins Abbott's coat, but she didn't notice it. Her mind was somewhere else entirely, locked inside a nightmare she couldn't escape. Jack Abbott was missing. Not just missing, kidnapped. And the man responsible was Victor Newman. Even after everything Genoa City had seen over the years, Diane still struggled to believe Victor would go this far. But every clue pointed in the same direction, every whisper led back to the Newman empire. Diane stood beside the black SUV parked near the Kenosha marina, staring out over the dark water. Boats rocked gently against their moorings. Lights shimmered across the lake like scattered diamonds. Somewhere out there, Jack was trapped. Billy Abbott slammed the passenger door shut and walked toward her, his expression tight with anger. "You ready?" he asked. Diane nodded, though she didn't feel ready for anything. Her hands were shaking. Kyle Abbott stepped out of the driver's seat and glanced toward the docks. His jaw clenched as he checked his phone again. "No signal," he muttered. "Of course not," Billy said. "Why would anything be easy tonight?" Kyle exhaled slowly, trying to keep his emotions under control. His father was out there somewhere, and every second that passed felt like another step closer to disaster. "We know Jack is on a yacht," Kyle said. "The problem is figuring out which one." Billy scanned the marina. Dozens of vessels bobbed gently in the water. "Great," he said. "That narrows it down to everything." Diane folded her arms, forcing herself to focus. "We follow the lead," she said. "Someone here knows something." The three Abbotts walked down the dock, their footsteps echoing against the wooden planks. A weather-beaten man in a thick jacket sat near a small shack, smoking a cigarette and watching the lake. Billy approached him. "Evening," Billy said casually. The man looked them over with mild suspicion. "Marina's closed," he said. "We're not here to rent a boat," Billy replied. Kyle stepped forward and placed a folded stack of bills on the railing beside the man. The man glanced at the money. Then he looked at Kyle. "What do you want?" Kyle spoke quietly. "We're looking for a yacht, arrived recently, probably private, maybe trying not to attract attention." The man studied the cash again. After a moment, he pocketed it. "There was a boat," he admitted. "Came in 2 nights ago, didn't stay at the dock long." Diane's heart skipped. "Where did it go?" The man shrugged. "Anchored farther out, owner wanted privacy." Billy leaned forward. "What did it look like?" "White yacht, 2 decks, big thing." Kyle's pulse quickened. "Did you see anyone on board?" The man hesitated. "There was a woman." Diane's stomach twisted. "What kind of woman?" she asked. The man squinted as he tried to remember. Dark hair looked strange, like she was talking to herself. Billy exchanged a look with Kyle. They both knew exactly who that sounded like. Patty Williams. Diane's breath caught in her throat. "Where is the yacht now?" she demanded. The man pointed toward the dark horizon. "Out there." The wind howled across the water as Diane followed his finger. A faint shape was barely visible in the distance. Kyle stared at it. "Oh, that's it." Billy turned toward the nearby rental dock. "Then what are we waiting for?" Miles away on the yacht, Jack Abbott sat in a dim cabin, staring at the floor. The room smelled faintly of saltwater and expensive perfume. Patty Williams paced slowly in front of him, humming softly to herself. Her eyes glittered with unsettling excitement. "Isn't this romantic, Jack?" she said. Jack forced a smile. "Patty, we've been through this," he said calmly. "You don't need to keep me here." Patty tilted her head. "You're wrong." She walked closer, tracing a finger along his shoulder. "I do." Jack resisted the urge to pull away. He had spent days trying to understand Patty's unstable mind. If he pushed too hard, she might snap. If he played along, maybe he could escape. "You know I care about you," Jack said carefully. Patty's face lit up instantly. "You do." Jack nodded. "Of course." Patty clasped her hands together, almost like a child hearing wonderful news. "I knew it," she whispered. Jack forced himself to hold her gaze. "I just wish we could talk somewhere more comfortable," he added. Patty leaned closer. "This is comfortable." Her fingers brushed his cheek. Jack's stomach turned, but he kept his composure. "You deserve better than hiding out on a boat," he said gently. Patty's expression shifted. For a moment, she looked uncertain. Then suddenly she laughed. "You're trying to manipulate me." Jack froze. Patty's smile widened. Nice try. Jack swallowed. Patty. She leaned forward until their faces were inches apart. I know your tricks, Jack Abbott. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But that doesn't mean I won't have a little fun. Before Jack could react, Patty grabbed his collar and kissed him. The door to the cabin burst open at that exact moment. Diane Jenkins Abbott stood in the doorway. Her eyes widened in shock. Behind her, Billy and Kyle stared at the scene in stunned silence. Jack and Patty were tangled together on the beds. For a moment, nobody spoke. Diane's voice finally broke the silence. What the hell is this? Jack sprang up immediately. Diane, it's not what it looks like. Patty laughed delightedly. Oh, this is perfect. Diane stormed forward, fury blazing in her eyes. You kidnapped him, she shouted at Patty. Patty tilted her head. Kidnapped, such an ugly word. Diane's hand moved before she even thought about it. Slab. The sound echoed through the cabin. Patty staggered backward, holding her cheek. Billy muttered under his breath. Well, that escalated. Kyle stepped toward his father. Dad, are you okay? Jack nodded quickly. I'm fine. Patty slowly lowered her hand. Her eyes burned with rage. Oh, you hit me. Diane stepped closer, fearless. You're lucky that's all I did. Patty's lips curled into a smile. Oh, Diane, she said softly. This isn't over. Outside, thunder rolled across Lake Michigan. The storm was just beginning. The cabin fell into a tense silence after Diane's slap echoed through the yacht. For a moment, no one moved. Patty Williams stood perfectly still, her hand pressed against her cheek. The red mark from Diane's strike slowly appeared across her skin. But instead of anger exploding immediately, Patty began to laugh. It started softly. Then it grew louder. Soon the strange laughter filled the cabin. Kyle exchanged a worried look with Billy. Okay, Billy muttered, that's officially the creepiest thing I've heard this week. Jack stepped forward carefully. Patty, listen to me. But Patty ignored him. Her eyes were fixed on Diane. You think you won, Patty said quietly. Diane crossed her arms, standing firmly between Patty and Jack. I didn't come here to win, Diane said. I came to take my husband home. Patty tilted her head slowly. Your husband. She glanced at Jack, then back at Diane. But Jack was having such a lovely time. Jack groaned under his breath. Patty, please stop. Patty's smile vanished instantly. You kissed me. Jack's face tightened. I was trying to calm you down. Patty stepped closer. Don't lie to me. Billy rolled his eyes. This conversation is getting weird fast. Kyle stepped beside his father, placing a protective hand on Jack's shoulder. We're leaving, Kyle said firmly. Patty's expression darkened. No, the single word hung heavily in the air. Diane's patience snapped. You don't get to decide that. Patty suddenly reached into the pocket of her coat. Billy reacted instantly. Whoa, everyone froze. Patty pulled out a small pistol. Kyle immediately moved in front of Jack's. Don't, Kyle warned. The atmosphere in the cabin shifted from tense to dangerous in seconds. Patty's hands trembled slightly as she held the weapon. I tried to make this beautiful, she said softly. Jack raised his hands calmly. Patty, nobody wants anyone hurt. Her eyes darted between them. But they ruined everything. Diane stepped forward slowly. Patty, listen to me. Patty laughed bitterly. Oh, I'm listening. Diane kept her voice steady. You don't want to do this. Patty's finger tightened around the trigger. You don't know what I want. Billy whispered to Kyle. If she sneezes, someone's getting shot. Kyle stayed perfectly still. Jack continued speaking gently. Patty, remember when we talked earlier? Patty's gaze shifted to him. Jack kept his voice soft. You said you wanted people to understand you. Patty blinked. Oh, yes. Jack nodded. This isn't the way. For a moment, Patty looked uncertain. Her grip on the gun loosened slightly. Diane saw the opening. She stepped forward quickly and slapped the gun out of Patty's hand. The weapon clattered across the floor. Billy lunged forward and kicked it away. Okay, gun time is officially over. Patty screamed. The sudden outburst shocked everyone. You ruined everything, she shouted. She grabbed a nearby glass bottle and hurled it against the wall. It shattered violently. Kyle moved toward her cautiously. Patty calmed down. But Patty's emotional storm was already raging. You took him from me, she cried, pointing at Diane. Diane stood her ground. He was never yours. Patty's breathing grew faster. For a moment it looked like she might attack Diane again. But suddenly something changed. The fight drained from her eyes. Her shoulders dropped. She sank onto the edge of the bed. The rage faded into exhaustion. I just wanted someone to love me, Patty whispered. The room fell silent again. Even Billy softened slightly. Jack stepped closer. Patty, you need help. She looked up at him with sad eyes. Will you visit me? Jack hesitated. Diane glanced at him sharply. Jack cleared his throat. We'll see that you get the help you need. Patty nodded slowly. Moments later, the sound of approaching boat engines echoed across the lake. Kyle walked to the window and looked outside. Looks like the Coast Guard, he said. Billy smirked. Good timing. Within minutes, officers boarded the yacht. Patty didn't resist. She simply allowed them to take her away. As the officers escorted her out, she looked back one last time. Her eyes locked on Jack. Goodbye, Jack. Then she disappeared into the night. Hours later, the Abbotts stood on the dock in Kenosha again. The storm had passed. The lake was calm. Jack leaned against the railing, breathing in the cold air. Diane stood beside him, still shaken but relieved. Billy stretched his arms. Well, he said, that was one hell of a rescue mission. Kyle laughed softly. Next time, let's just call the police first. Jack looked at his family. Gratitude filled his eyes. You three saved my life tonight. Diane squeezed his hand. We were never going to stop looking. Billy nodded. Family rule number 1. Kyle smiled. We always show up. Jack wrapped his arm around Diane's. Let's go home. They walked toward the waiting car together. Behind them, Lake Michigan stretched into the darkness. For the first time in days, the nightmare was finally over. But in Genoa City, peace never lasted long. New battles were always waiting. And somewhere in the shadows, Victor Newman was already planning his next move.